Hey Rally Besties, welcome back to the Writing with Anna New podcast, where we talk about all things writing. I have a guest on my podcast. Can you guess who she is?
Hi, it's me, Tiana, or Tiana, which is with a J.
Yeah, this is Tiana. She's like my best friend. We've been friends for like 1.5 years. She's a writer and she has her own podcast too. And we met literally on her podcast. So it's so good to have her physically in person. I'm currently in the Netherlands, so she was able to visit me. And I'm just very excited for this podcast because I'm going to be interviewing her a little bit, asking about her projects, her whips, and also a bit more personal questions. About the books. No personal questions about your life, don't worry. We can talk about it in another podcast episode.
Can we? Are we?
Ooh, okay. Okay, let's get started. Let's get right into it. So, the first question is, what is your current whip? The title, what is it about? And let's, talk about.
Oh, there's so many whips. But the main one is project.TOD. Woo! I have it with me.
It's physically right here.
It's this big boy.
It's really... it's big.
She said it's about as heavy as my laptop, so if that gives you any indication of how big it is.
How many words?
Just over 158,000.
Yeah.
But that's my main whip. It was the first ever novel I actually ever finished. I'm currently editing it. I'm doing draft 2, so hopefully it'll, chunk it down to 130,000 is the goal. And then I have a lot of other main whips that I have. So if you guys want to know more about them, I have a video on my YouTube channel called Every Book I Want to Write. And so, but this is the main one that I really need to finish sometime.
Project.TOD.
Yeah.
Project.TOD. Yeah. So that's her current project, and of course she has her own YouTube channel. I'll link it in the description. Go check out her recent video. It popped off. She's gone viral, hasn't she?
I guess. I mean, in the writer community, viral.
It's great.
It's like 3,000 views, I think, or just under. I think it's like 2.7 last I checked. So, thanks guys for watching.
Thank you.
Or go watch it.
Yeah, please go support her channel. It's a great channel, and I loved that video. Such a slay. Project.TOD is currently in the works. It's draft 2, and I want you to kind of explain your process and why, the physicality of the book and what you're actually writing now and what your process is to develop it into a publishable book.
I started it officially April 2019, but I didn't really write anything too much until NaNoWriMo 2021. Yeah, it's been a long time. But then when I finished the first draft, I didn't want to edit it on my laptop, so I literally just took this to a copy shop, a photocopy shop, and I was gonna just get the whole thing printed, but then they were like, hey, we can do the spiral bound for you if you want, and so I was like, okay. So now it's literally so it's a lot easier for me. I read through it 3 times and took different... Well, the first read-through was I'm trying to read it with fresh eyes. I hadn't looked at the project in 4 months. And then the second draft was reading through it and really figuring out what works, what doesn't, things that don't make sense, what could be cut out. And then I did a third read-through where I was really nitpicky. I don't know. I just felt like that's what I had to do. Again, this is my first time editing a full-length novel, so it'll probably change in the future. I might find a more efficient way to do it. And then now I'm retyping the entire novel.
Crazy.
I'm on chapter 6 now.
Getting there. Very slowly getting there.
Sorry.
Well, it's really funny because we've been she came to visit wait, when did you come here?
Thursday night. It is now Monday.
It's Monday. And we just went to a cafe shop and wrote just a couple sentences. So that's the first time.
Couple sentences?
Well,
excuse me, I got 700 words in today.
That's pretty good. More than me. But yeah, we gotta... Well, I think it's just traveling. I just can't write and travel at the same time, which is crazy because traveling is supposed to be inspirational.
I mean, it is, but then because we only have 9 days together, so it's we want to see places and do things, and then we're hanging out with other people, so so it's we aren't just sitting and writing, and then it's kind of taking a back seat. But I mean, also at the same time, like, we're getting so many ideas. Like, I'm doing stuff that I've never done before, and I'm just like, I think when I come home, I'll be kind of refreshed and have more ideas and be able to creatively output more.
No, yeah.
Is what I'm thinking, is kind of how I do it. If I was here for 2 months, I think we'd be writing a lot more. When I was in Peru for 2 months, I was writing, like, I don't know, probably wrote, like, 30,000 words that time.
That's crazy.
So, like, it just depends, yeah. But I was, again, there for a long time. I was, like, living there like you live here now. Whereas this is, like, we're trying to jam-pack in a whole bunch of stuff.
A lot in one day. I mean, 1 week. No, yeah, well, editing is such a huge undertaking because, obviously, if you guys don't know, I'm editing my debut novel as well. And I honestly think it's so interesting, like, the messy process of editing. It's really difficult. I feel like it's also, like, the first time you do it, it's just such, like, a hard thing to grapple with because you've never, like, edited, let alone, like, you just finished a book and now you got to edit it. And it really does depend on the project and yourself as a writer. So, yeah. I mean, it's so cool that you have a physical book because that's a lot of pages. That's a lot of...
It's like 348 pages, I think. Like, full-size, like, Microsoft Word doc pages. So I think if you put it into, like, a book format, it's, like, 600 pages. 600. Yeah. Okay, I have a question for you, though. So what do you like more? The writing part or the editing what you've written part? What do you like more so far?
That's a good question. I mean, I want to dodge it and just say I love brainstorming. Okay. I hate writing. We're writers and we hate writing so much.
Kind of, but like...
I hate editing. Editing, to me, is the hardest thing to do because it's, like, not fun anymore because you need to be serious and you have to actually make decisions for your final book, and that, like, scares me a lot. So when it gets closer to, like, publishing, I get more scared. So definitely writing, the zero draft is my favorite. What about you, though?
I definitely like writing more.
Yeah,
like, I like the getting in the flow and just getting words out onto a page and not caring about them as much because you're like, oh, I just need to write the story and then I'll make it pretty later. Whereas I'm editing right now, and sometimes it'll take me, like, 10 minutes to edit a single paragraph that's, like, 5 sentences. Because I'm like, oh, I don't like this word, let me change it. Oh, I don't like this sentence being first. And it's like this weird jigsaw puzzle, and then it's taking forever to just get through one chapter. It'll be, like, one chapter is, like, 2 hours, 3 hours, just to get through the thing to make it in a way that I like.
Yeah.
And this probably isn't the only draft I'm going to have. If I'm probably going to do this, like, at least 2 more times, I'm counting. So... I'm like, I just want to sit and write, and then this is why I end up writing on my other projects, because I'm like, I can just write whatever I want, it doesn't have to look pretty.
No,
So,
too many.
Yeah, writing's better, or brainstorming, I guess.
Writing too many projects. Well, do you want to talk a little bit about your book, and kind of, do you have, like, a pitch? I know you kind of do have a very short one. Did you want to share that, like, as you did in your whip video?
Sure, So project.TOD is about a girl, her name is Elena. Her mom is murdered by I was almost about to say who. She was murdered by... Damn, okay, just kidding. Her mom is murdered, and she enlists the help of the Italian mafia to help find out who killed her mother, and in that process she learns a bunch of secrets about her own past, and of course who actually did kill her mom in the end. Which I almost did reveal, but...
I mean, I haven't read it either, so I'm waiting for her to finish this. Like, it's been, like, ever since I've met you, basically, you've been working on this, and I'm just like, when?
Like, a year.
When? Well, then I guess the question is, what's your goal to have this finished by, in terms with, like, querying or self-publishing, or, like, what's your plans?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm technically kind of already behind. I also made a goals video on my YouTube channel, and I am already behind. But the plan is, ideally, this book will be ready, like, all drafts done by the end of the year. And so, like, maybe in December, I would start looking for an agent. And then, so, like, you know, basically by the end of the year, it'll be, like, kind of good to go, or relatively good to go. And then by sometime next year, either have, like, an agent and potentially an offer, or just decide to self-publish.
Yeah, it's really hard, like, I've queried you know. So it's really interesting to see what people. Sorry, the lighting is changing so much. It's just so bright. It's like really rainy today, but yeah. I mean, I really can't wait to self-publish Ghost Side, for example. But I'm really excited to see your book and how you will query it, because I feel like your book is definitely something that there's a gap in the market, and it's very niche in that sense. But there's still a demand of like very like lots of different themes within your like mafia romance story.
Oh, disclaimer: it is a mafia romance, but for all of you mafia romance fans who like smut, this ain't the book. It ain't got any smut. Sorry, there's some romance, but I'm definitely more focused on like the psychological transformation of my main character versus just a whole bunch of sexy stuff.
So that's why I really, really do like it. And I've read a couple chapters, and I really love your writing also. So I'm very excited to see how it will like just improve eventually. So that's really fun. Oh my gosh. She's gonna query eventually. The last sort of question, and you can really like spill this or share whatever you would like, but we've had lots of conversations recently about how subjective writing is and how we self-implement a lot of our themes, a lot of our identities within our characters and within the messages of our books. So I'm very curious to hear like why you wrote this book and what it means to you personally.
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, why I started writing the book was because I was reading a bunch of mafia romance and I got so sick of it. I got so bored of it. I got so bored of the trope of like the female main character being like, she's just like this docile little girl who can't do anything, and there's this dominant mafia guy who comes in and just tells her what to do and bosses around, and she's like, okay, and and then there's some of them, like, not every series has this, but some of them they just like do really awful stuff, and it's constantly like justifying that behavior. And I was like, no, I want to write, like, a badass girl. Like, I want to write a girl who, you know, does bad things, and then looking into, like, why she does bad things. Because, like, obviously, Elena's motivation is finding her mom's murderer. Now, in that process, she herself ends up doing some pretty bad things, but she is so dedicated to this goal of finding out who killed her mother that it leads to this psychological transformation. That's like more of like what I want to explore, rather than just you know, girl meets dominant mafia guy, and you know, they have really great sex and they fall in love. Like, nothing wrong with that. I just got really bored of that, and I think a lot of the genre is like that. Whereas I also really I think the mafia is cool, but like from a sociological perspective, for someone like no, I like, you know, did some classes in university and like and like on crime and stuff, and I think it's the way the structure of the organization and how things work. I find that fascinating, and so I was like, well, let me put that all together, like take all these things that I don't like, that I'm bored of, that I like, and that interest me, and just smush it all together and see what happens. And that's what I did.
That's so cool. Yeah, because I can tell a lot about Elena. Kind of represents you as a person. So can I ask a little bit about Elena and her journey, and like who she is to you, and maybe some parts of you that you've kind of recognized? Because at least when I write characters, it's very like subconscious, the way that I see certain things that I do, like little mannerisms or little beliefs, like belief systems within the character that I don't recognize before. Do you, like, as you've been going through the drafts, do you recognize parts of yourself?
Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe I was more intentional with, like, certain things that she does and some of the other characters, and, like, some of her mannerisms. They definitely stem from, like, my own mannerisms. Because I very much, like, see myself in my characters. I think of it as, like, you know, they're all me, and I'm like ripping apart like bits of myself and just like putting them in. So I'm like, how do I write a character that has absolutely nothing to do with me? I don't know if I can do that. I mean, I probably could, but to me, it's like I put all these feelings that I have about certain things and ideas, and I put them into Elena and into the other characters. I'm doing that with some of the other books, like, you know, they're influenced by my thoughts and my viewpoints about certain themes.
So cool.
And, I mean, I think that's kind of what writing is. It's just like you have a certain perspective on something and you want to share it, you want to get it across, and sometimes the most effective way to do that is through a fictional story. I mean, that's what George Orwell did with, I think, Animal Farm.
Yeah.
You know, he was like, oh, well, writing a newspaper article isn't going to be nearly as effective as writing a book where, you know, a pig is leading, you know, all these farm animals to slaughter, essentially. So I kind of view it like that, in that same sense. Yeah. It's just, you know, make it a little bit more fun and interesting, and I always loved reading and writing, so I'm just like, okay, well, let's see what I can come up with.
No, that's so cool. I love project.TOD, and I literally cannot wait until I can read it in its hilarity. Is that a word? Hilarity. I swear it's not.
In
English.
Totality?
In totality. That doesn't sound like a real word.
So you can read the whole book.
Yeah.
Just
sorry, I don't need a I love trying to use fancy words that actually don't mean anything. Last question, it's more of a question that I didn't ask or tell you about. Just like I want to hear some advice, or like one piece of advice that you've either learned from yourself or you want to impart to the besties. A big writing advice that you want to give.
Oh, okay. To me, the biggest thing that got my writing off the ground really was like stopping the editing while writing. It's super hard, especially if you're a perfectionist like me. But once I was able to like get into writing sprints and just really put aside that inner editor, I now actually just love that process of like I sit down this for like 20 minutes and just kind of like spit out whatever comes out rather than but now I'm having to do that perfection process again with editing. But like you'll get to that too, but I like just really, I think, get everything out on paper. If it's 160,000 words like mine is, like who cares? Like I didn't go into this thinking, okay, I am doing mafia romance and it needs to be at max 80k words and I need to cover all of these no, I had an idea and I wrote it until I was done. So, and whatever happens.
Yeah. Okay, well, that was a really good piece of advice. I really do recommend. As you were explaining, I thought about a metaphor, because I love explaining things with metaphors, but, like, think about it maybe as, like, a sculptor, like a sculpture. Sculpture?
A sculptor is the guy who makes the sculpture.
And then a sculpture
is the
okay, yeah, a sculpture.
Product.
So when you start with it, you don't start with, like, the eyes, because that takes a while, you know, when you haven't done the actual full head, for example.
Oh,
you know what you're getting.
I'm seeing it. Okay. like you have like a piece of rock, and you don't do like the eyes first. You start off with like shaping the head, and then maybe you do like the hair, and then you do like then you get into the nitty gritty like facial details. Yeah. You don't do like all the little tiny details first, and then you build build it up.
Yeah, and that's what editing. Well, that's literally what we're both going through right now.
Yeah,
that's the fine tuning, and everything. Yeah, sorry, I just thought about that. But thank you so much for being on this podcast. We've been going for 23 minutes, which is a pretty good length. But yeah.
I think it's less than that.
A little bit less than 23 minutes, sorry.
20
minutes!
We were messing around before this recording.
Oh, you don't want to see the bloopers, trust me. You don't want to see us off camera. Okay, thank you so much, Tiana, for being on my podcast finally, after like 2 years?
Like a year and a half.
A little bit. You've been watching me for 2 years.
That's true.
Kind of sounds crazy.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy.
Literally.
Yeah, but I love your project. I can't wait. Go show love on Tiana's channel, please. I'll have her links in the description, and also follow her on Instagram. Her gram will be popping eventually.
I have almost 300 followers, you guys.
We love you.
We love you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.